welcome to a spooky Halloween video special from your friends at Supraliminal Films. My name is Dan.
I am Spooky Max.
Spooky Max. Terrifying. So we are here today. It is slightly after Halloween as we're recording this, but it's still the Halloween spirit season. We're not in Santa Claus hats and fake beards yet.
No, we're very anti that this early into the year.
Yeah. This is not a time for Santa Claus hats and other similar Christmas bullshit. So we are going to be bringing you a bit of a conversation about some horror movies. Max has got a couple picked out that he'd like to talk about, and I will be sitting here sort of as a surrogate for all of you fine folks out there in listener land, and we will be going through it. Anything you'd like to say before we get a rolling there, Max?
I watched a either movie or television series for every day of October.
That's pretty great.
And they're all horror-ish.
Horror-ish?
Yeah, I mean, at least have something.
How would you spell that? Horror-ish.
Just an ISH at the end of horror.
That's just the way you said it. It sounded like horror-ish.
Horror-ish.
Hare Krishna.
It's something.
Hare Krishna.
That's right.
Is that on here? No, it's not.
What?
The original Dawn of the Dead with the Hare Krishna zombie.
No, but we will get to a Dawn of the Dead.
Yes, we will. So we're going to start it off with Behind the Mask, The Rise of Leslie Vernon.
Yes, I watched. This is the first movie, and the order is nothing more than just the order in which I viewed these things.
Okay.
Behind the Mask, I watched on DVD. Actually, funny that now that we're recording this, I think it was a day or two ago. Scream Factory, which is also it's like the horror arm of Shout Factory, announced that they are going to do their fantastic Blu-ray treatment to this film. So
cool. It
should be quite exciting, I hope. So hoping for good artwork, hoping for good special features, because there's some on the original DVD release, but I am a man who cannot have enough. So
no, you cannot.
I love special features. I just want to know how you made that thing that I like. And this one is definitely a movie worth watching. If you've never seen it, just a real quick, brief explanation that I'll try to keep it. Well, I'm going to have to get into spoilers because every one of these movies is another thing that I want to explain about the whole thing is there is a piece of something, either the movie did well or didn't do so well, that stuck with me after watching it. And I wanted to kind of comment on that and what happens in the movie.
Okay.
So real quick. This movie is about a group of college film students who go to do a documentary with a man who's setting himself up to become the next famous serial killer in the vein of Jason Voorhees and Michael Myers, which the movie posits as real, actual killers. And this new guy on the block, his name is Leslie Vernon. He's getting ready to kind of come out and do his first big iconic grisly killing, and these kids are here to kind of film it and get into the head of a serial killer. And one thing I really wanted to talk about that this movie does exceptionally well is it kind of flips character expectations. When we first hear about Leslie Vernon, he's like a slasher kind of character, so we're expecting like someone just evil to the core. And we meet this guy who's like really nice. He's really funny. He's a little weird, but in just the right way to where he becomes endearing. And then by the third act of the movie, it switches over from a documentary style piece to an actual traditional horror film. And we get to watch these characters kind of enter the world of the slasher. And now he becomes a force of nature like Jason or Michael or one of the famous killers. And now they are afraid of the guy they were once kind of slowly starting to befriend. So it does a really nice job of deep characters and really taking the time to kind of flip our character expectations while still kind of playing with genre tropes. So really good job in that regard.
Yeah, actually, I think this movie is both hilarious and also terrifying, which walks an incredibly fine line.
Agree.
And that's one of the coolest things about it. That, and I'll always remember the first time I saw it, which was at Monster Mania in the hall. So,
oh yeah, that's right.
I was watching it for the first time in a room full of people. Is always fun. So up next, you wanted to talk about Waxwork, which is another film that I have actually seen.
Have you?
Yes, I have seen Waxwork at your house, actually.
Oh, okay.
Many
Well,
a year ago when you were in that intermediate period between the Alloway house and your current house.
excellent.
Yeah.
This one is a fun one. It is about a waxwork where if you go in and you go beyond the velvet rope into the display, you get sucked into the world that the waxwork is portraying.
It's like, what if
And
that House of Wax remake didn't suck?
right. The last few minutes of that movie are pretty good.
Well,
Where like the actual house is mel. Have you watched it in a while?
I haven't watched since it came out, to be honest. So it's been
The
what,
house
12 or 13 years?
it actually is pretty good. I was surprised. I
Okay.
caught part of it at the like on cable, just
Mhm.
like randomly, and I was like, man, I forgot how good the end of this movie was. The rest of it is but
It's garbage.
the end is good.
All
And
right.
this one I like because it is based on the Vincent Price House of Wax, where it's just like that's what we saw, right? Like it was scary figures that looked like wax that came to life.
That was
And
really bad, scary voice, but all right.
came to life. Is that better?
Not really, but we'll go with it. Let's move.
Okay. Do you want to do it one more time?
No, I think we're okay.
All right, fair enough. But this one I liked because it took that whole the waxworks come to life and it changed it into like the waxworks pull you into the world of the waxwork, which is really different and interesting. And I thought that was a cool spin on what when you first hear waxwork, you're like, oh, okay, the wax figures come to life and kill people. No, actually quite different than that. And there's some different interesting wax displays like the Marquis de Sade, and that gets pretty weird towards the end of the film. But overall is good fun, lighthearted, kind of like 80s nonsense horror humor. So not quite as good as Behind the Mask on the frightening yet awesome territory, but it's got John Rhys Davies as a werewolf.
Yes, it does. And he's great.
He is.
He is truly, truly fantastic. Uh, the next up on our list is one that I am greatly a fan of, and I'm actually legitimately upset that I have never seen the version of it that you have seen, and that is Suspiria. Truly a classic in the realm of horror that is for smart people.
Witch.
There are three witches at the school.
Witch. As so I don't know if I told you the story, but I took a friend of ours to see this movie. Shout out to the Siege Tank over on Twitch,
Siege
who
Tank Gaming.
streams some video game. Yeah, and he had never seen it before, and
Well, I
so at
can't
the
say
end
I'm
of the movie,
surprised about that.
right, and at the end of the movie, I asked him specifically, like everybody does, about the Goblin score, which in the very beginning, for some reason, they chose to put in the parts where Claudio Simonetti goes, "Witch." And it's like, you're just ruining the whole movie. Like, we don't know what this movie's about. He kind of just disregarded it, assuming he didn't realize it at the time, but his initial thought was they're just going to whisper other scary things. And so he was just like, "Oh, okay, that's just like weird whispering of scary stuff."
Ah,
It's just like, oh, okay, that's cool. Like that helped. You know what I mean? Kind of, disguise it from yourself.
yeah, and the thought of that is really cool.
Yeah, so it was pretty neat. But yeah, I did get to see the 4K restoration of this movie, and I got to see it in theaters, which was a lot of fun because this is a big, colorful movie with an amazing soundtrack. I know we were kind of just like mocking it slightly, but
Witch.
it can't be overstated that this Goblin soundtrack is one of the all-time great horror soundtracks, no question.
So there was a period of time where the Italians were doing what became known as giallo cinema, that just they were doing scary and intelligent scary better than anyone else in the world, bar
Yep.
effing none.
I
And this is probably one of the prime examples.
Yeah, I saw a list that was put up on YouTube of the 5 greatest horror movies of all time, where I watched. I was like, okay, so me and Daryl tried to guess them before they came up, and they did a cool little thing where they threw away all the really like the Beatles of the subgenres of horror. They're like, let's pretend these don't exist. Now, what would we pick? And their slasher movie of choice was Mario Bava's Blood and Black Lace.
Oh, it was so good.
Yeah, I was just like, what? Like, what? Like, I was really excited because that's what they let off with. And I was like, I am very excited for this list.
Yeah, seriously.
But this movie is about a girl who goes to a dance school and she comes to, like, I guess, spoiler because we kept, like, saying witch and there's 3 witches at the school. There's actually witches at the dance school. And she has to try to overcome, their power before they kill her. And the one thing that really strikes me about this movie, and if you see this movie, even 20 minutes of this movie, it will strike you immediately, and that is the director Dario Argento's use of extreme color to help heighten the atmosphere of tension and horror in the movie.
Mhm.
Like, the colors in this movie are totally insane.
Well, Dario Argento is noted for that in a lot of his work, and I think this is an absolute sort of slam dunk in the vein of what how color tells a story.
Yeah, it just takes everything and ramps it up. And because you're like, what? Like, it's unmotivated lighting, so you're questioning why it's there, and that makes you nervous. And I mean, he's using it like other directors would use camera techniques, and you know what I mean, kind of putting the camera in odd places or changing up some rules of film. He just is like, you know what, I'm going to use color in addition to those tools to make this more and more off-putting, which is just top notch.
Absolutely, and you're absolutely correct there. Up next, we have the first film on the list I've not seen, Waxwork 2, Lost in Time.
Yep. It's on the list. I watched it.
It's a movie.
So I've watched Waxwork 2 Lost in Time one time before, and I mean, I guess it was lost in time in my brain because boy oh boy, this movie is not good. Same writer director as Waxwork. Zach Galligan reprises his role from the original. They did something that I wasn't too fond of, which is switch your lead actress after the first one, which is kind of a shame to me because I thought the lead in the first Waxwork was a very like non-typical female character for that role. And this one they go right to the this girl's like basically a model version.
Oh, okay.
And I really want to touch on the thing that stuck out to me, and I couldn't get around. There's great stuff like Bruce Campbell's in here, and they do some cool cliches on old horror tropes and like old genre film.
Oh, we do love Bruce Campbell.
We do, and I love the way that what they try to do. But the whole thing and the big problem I have with this is the kind of core concept is preposterous. So the girl is goes home from the waxwork, and one of the hands from the waxwork, you see it skittering around at the end of the first movie, kind of hooks onto the taxi cab they take home, and it unhooks itself, and it kills her stepfather, who is George Buck Flower.
We love George Buck Flower.
So it cuts to then her in court for murdering her stepfather, and Zach Galligan's brilliant master plan is he gets left the estate of his, I think it was like a friend of his dad's or his uncle's or something. Okay. And he has this artifact that'll let them go back in time. So his plan is to go back in time so that they can not prevent her stepfather's death because he's kind of an abusive dick, but instead find the hand and present it as evidence in the court case to get her off.
That's really terrible.
That is the plot and the premise for the movie to like for the like character motivation, which is abysmal.
That's pretty damn bad.
Yeah, it's such a lame, terrible concept that I can't really, it makes it hard for me to just sit back and shut off my brain and enjoy the film because it takes me out of it so hard.
Jesus.
So it's like you may have some cool moments in your movie, but please have a reason you're telling the story that's compelling.
Gotcha. Next we have Fright Night, which you note here that you saw in the theater, which is pretty rad.
Yes, I got to see it's the same. It was called Horror Fest, and it was
original.
Yeah, and Synapse put out the lineup, and they were doing it in Regal Theaters, so it was like on Mondays and Tuesdays. So it was $5 if it was just a single show, or $10 if it was a double feature. And I got to see Fright Night, which is it's maybe my top vampire movie of all time.
It's one of two vampire movies that I can think of that I actually like, even though I've not seen it in a bunch of years. I really liked it when I was a kid.
I love this movie. One of the thing that really strikes me about it whenever I see it is I should hate this movie because it's Rear Window, but instead of seeing something like a murder, he just sees that his neighbor is a vampire. And it's just like, well, that's your elevator pitch, right? Like it's Rear Window with a vampire. And it's just like, well, I should despise this movie greatly, but quite the contrary, it is phenomenal. Like I'd consider putting it on my top 10 horror movie list.
Okay.
It's so good. Everything's so well done. And the fact that they took that concept and kind of spun it to a like no one believes me aspect, more so than Rear Window, where they're just like, oh, he's cooped up, he's kind of just losing it, he's crazy,
he's cracked a bit.
Yeah, this is like kid who is a horror movie fan thinks his neighbor's a vampire. He's full blown gone over the deep end.
Mm-hmm.
And they employ the help of Roddy McDowall's character, Peter Vincent, the great vampire killer, to kind of try to snap him out of his delusion. And then he finds out that, no, he's actually telling the truth, and things spiral way out of control. And it's just such a good and well done movie. The script's phenomenal. The pacing is amazing. So if you haven't seen Fright Night, absolutely, probably one of the strongest recommends on this list, maybe except for the last movie on this list.
I appreciate whenever anyone uses absolutely probably, so we'll go with that.
Well, it's like, wait, you know what I mean? Like, I forgot Jacob's Ladder's at the end of this list. Spoiler alert.
Spoilers!
Yeah.
We were going to get there, and we will. We're only a third of the way through. Up next, we have Jeepers Creepers from the early 2000s school of, here's some weird shit. It's scary. Hey, young people, come buy a movie ticket.
You know what? I'm super glad you brought that up, because we are stuck in an era of, here is Scream rehashed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's where we were. We were back to the early 80s whodunit slasher.
Yeah.
Like, that was the circle we were stuck in. Granted, totally worth it, because Scream is a phenomenal horror movie. I know a lot of people give it grief and say it's overrated and stuff, but I think those guys are just trying to be contentious for the sake of being contentious.
So I'll tell you, my opinion on Scream is it's overrated, but that doesn't mean it's not good.
Yeah,
I think people put way too much import on that movie. I know we're not talking about it here, but people put way too much import on that movie, but that doesn't mean it sucks. It just means I don't think it's as good as everyone says it is.
Right, exactly, because it's gotten to the point now where people argue it with too much gusto, where it was so original. No, it wasn't. It just took what was before it and it made, like Fright Night, and made it that much better.
Yeah.
And Jeepers Creepers was one of the first movies of that era to kind of come out and be contemporary. It's like, no, it's a fucking monster movie.
Yeah.
It's just like, whoa, like this is so great. And the thing that kills it with Jeepers Creepers for me is how good and careful of a job that Victor Salva, and I'll avoid the whole Victor Salva thing.
Please.
You want to talk Victor Salva, in my opinion on Victor Salva, you email me, maxdevonshire@supraliminalfilms.com.
Well, see, now you've brought it up, and I was kind of hoping you wouldn't, because now I do have to say something. There's been an article going around, since we live in this modern world, where we're discovering that, to the surprise of apparently more people than I would have expected, professional life is full of horrible people, even if you're in the movie business. But you don't have to hate art because the person who created it is terrible.
Right, exactly.
And you can hate the person and not the product.
Yep, you know, I'll keep it. I'll jump in now. Now you drug me in. I'll keep it real quick though. Here's my opinion of it. He's a slimeball, 100%. He was found guilty of a crime that is absolutely deplorable.
Goddamn pederast.
And he was sentenced, you know what I mean, to, you know what I mean, serve prison time, and he did his time and he was released, you know what I mean, and he paid for his crimes. And he went on to do these other things. He hasn't ever done it since. So, you know what I mean? However, I'm not going to get into the deeper issues here, but
if we are to believe,
I'm not going to hold it against him forever.
Yeah. If we are to believe in the justice system, then we are to believe that, according to our government, he has atoned for his crime.
Yep.
Say what you will about the emotional or the moral aspect. Legally, he has paid for his crime, and he should be allowed to continue working as long as people are willing to work with him. But
exactly.
much like the Harvey Weinsteins of the world, you don't have to work with him.
Right.
So, and they're shit, and you shouldn't, but that's my opinion, not the opinion of the court.
That's right. So, Jeepers Creepers.
Yeah.
I think he does a great job of really building rules that are specific about how, for, you know, every so many years, for a certain period of time, this thing, unfettered, just feasts on human flesh. It's seemingly he's unstoppable during this period. The second one gets more into it, but in this first one, they keep it vague and they keep it terrifying. It's just such a nice job of scaring the absolute shit out of you with this character, from, you know, the opening where the truck kind of bears down on them on the highway. And I also really like the fact that he decided to make it a brother-sister, not a love interest thing. It keeps the whole thing very different, while still kind of running down the same avenues that a lot of horror and monster movie kind of stuff does.
And that sequence on the highway is the one that sticks with me
Oh yeah.
From the movie, and it is terrifying.
Yeah, I saw that movie way before I saw Duel, so I was like, I've never seen anything like this before.
Yeah. All right, up next we have one that we actually teased out a little bit earlier ago, Dawn of the Dead, the 2004 remake, which was written by James Gunn before he was Marvel's James Gunn, and directed by Zack Snyder before he was DC's Zack Snyder.
Hey, well put.
I mean, they've both gone on. They've gone on from a Romero remake to far larger comic book things.
It's very true. Two guys who were doing some more experimental kind of film early in their career really went on to now define the blockbuster tentpole movie.
I can't believe that. I just can't believe that James Gunn became James Gunn.
You mean the screenwriter of Tromeo and Juliet?
Yeah, the guy that wrote Tromeo and Juliet and Scooby-Doo and Scooby-Doo 2 Monsters Unleashed is, he's
Slither, Super,
and now start with S. Marvel Comics.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much.
That's too ridiculous.
But this movie, I really, I always kind of go back to every once in a while because, like everybody else, Dawn of the Dead was kind of it for me. Like when I was a kid, that movie just felt gritty. It felt real. It just felt so kind of overwhelmingly depressing and frightening to the point where it's like, I can't register how much this is weighing on me.
Yeah.
So when it comes to a remake, woof, you got your work cut out for you.
Am I allowed to say in your presence that I had never seen the original before I saw this remake?
No, I mean, that's fine.
Okay.
I mean, you saw it when you saw it. At least you're being honest about it. I'd be more upset if you lied about it.
Oh, that's also true. But yeah, it is pretty bad.
I mean, there are things that this movie does that I like, and I like the main thing that sticks with me whenever I watch this movie is how it took so much time to take that idea of people stuck in a mall during a zombie. And this is like the last era you could do this in too. You couldn't do this movie now, or if you did, it'd be a totally different movie. And this is kind of took cues from the original, but it did a lot of things. It was like, no, this is a modern time, and this is what modern people would do in a mall. This is how a mall has changed, and things of that nature. I really think it's very different, and it did a lot to kind of break free of what your expectations were, while still leaving enough room for you to go, hey, if you like the original, we're not crapping all over the original, but we're just trying to kind of update it and kind of bring about a new feel about not only the mall itself and the technology and the things that change, but the people, and also the zombie itself is a lot different in this one.
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely think that they did a nice job of kind of staying away from the same kind of thing over again, all the way down to again, we had a Goblin soundtrack for the original. This one moves away from that and goes with much more contemporary
pop music,
and even some of the the Richard Cheese Down with a Sickness cover.
That's
some
true.
Really old choices. Yeah.
Richard Cheese. But that's I think to me that's another impact that Gunn had, because he's very much about his music with the stuff that he creates.
Sure.
I'm also learning in looking at this cast now that two of the actors from this movie shared screen time again in the Librarians TV show.
Nice.
Lindy Booth, who played Nicole, is one of the main characters, and Matt Frewer, who actually played her dad in the movie, Frank, was the villain of I want to say it was the first season of the Librarians.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
I also personally love Matt Frewer from his time on Next Generation, but that's Star Trek. That's for a different time. Up next, we have what might be my favorite movie on this list, Twilight Zone, the movie.
Ooh, good choice. Good choice.
It's so good.
So
even if fraught with many different things.
Oh, sure. Poor John Landis. Well, poor other people who were working under.
Or Vic Morrow and those Vietnamese children.
Yeah, good Lord.
But,
yeah, it's crazy. And the thing that really kind of always sticks with me about this movie is how they were so brave in just letting each director make the movie they wanted to make. Like, it's just like, do you want to do this? Yes. Do you want to do this? Yeah. Like, if you watch John Landis's piece, skip Spielberg's Kick the Can, and then get into Joe Dante's one where the kid in the cornfield. What? Like, it's like Joe Dante is like hit the Joe Dante button and was just like, I'm gonna be as Joe Dante can Joe Dante.
I love the idea of the Joe Dante button.
Hit the Joe Dante button. He fed himself after midnight. He got himself wet. He did everything Joe Dante shouldn't do when he made this thing, and it is outrageous. And it's just so different in contrast to the John Landis one, which is really, really dark. Of all of them, the John Landis opening segment is, well, not opening segment because there's the wraparound, but the first story is ridiculously dark. And boy, does it tackle some crazy issues. Like, just watching it, and he's like saying, really, like, now especially the racial slurs he was dropping would be completely unacceptable. And he's just in a bar going to town with this stuff, and it's like, holy crap. And it's just, you know what I mean, like, it's hard to watch, and just, you know what I mean, like, you don't feel bad for this character who's kind of getting this like Christmas Carol-esque like awakening of, you're a fucking douche. Like, you need to stop. And then you go to, you know, skip ahead to Joe Dante's, where it's just like, there is like a cartoon rabbit that came out of a TV, and now it's a like 6 times larger than life animatronic of an evil rabbit. What am I like? Am I watching the same film?
It's good though.
Oh, it's awesome. It's awesome. It's so good. And the other two, you know, Spielberg's Kick the Can and the Gremlin on the Wing short with John Lithgow doing the Captain Kirk part.
Yes.
Is just I like that one better than the original.
I appreciate that you referred to him as Captain Kirk. Oh, that's ridiculous.
All right. It's great. I love it.
It really is. It's a lot of fun too.
You want to see something really scary?
Up next we have another film on the list that I've never seen before, Dead and Buried.
So this movie was a recommendation from the 80s All Over podcast.
Okay.
And it's fantastic. It is so good. I didn't know what to expect coming into this, other than it was there was some work done on the script with Dan O'Bannon, and I forget the name of the main writer. He also helped O'Bannon work on Alien.
Oh wow.
So I like Alien. I like Dan O'Bannon's kind of flair for things and his kind of aesthetic. So I was like, let's give it a shot and see. I didn't know that not Stan Winston Studios, but Stan Winston, the man Stan Winston, did the special makeup effects on this film. It's just really, really well done from start to finish. And the thing that really kind of sticks with me, I've only viewed it one time, is just what I was expecting to happen through the whole movie. I was like, oh, okay, I know what this is. And I was wrong. And I was like, oh, well, okay, well, it's not that, so it's going to be that. I was wrong. And it was just like, it just kept flipping, like it just kept taking my expectations and shunting them to the point where there's a bit of a twist at the ending that I don't want to spoil. That's really, really good. And I did not see it coming. And also a great role of the mortician in the movie is played by Grandpa Joe from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
Wonderful.
Yeah, and he's weird and creepy, and it's not Grandpa Joe. It's just like, what the shit is this? But it's super good. The makeup effects are insane. I watched the special features, and there are 2 puppets in that movie that I did not realize were puppets. I thought were people with makeup on.
Whoa.
Yeah. Mind-blowing stuff. Stan Winston crushing it.
What's the Stan Winston?
Yeah, it's super good. It's kind of an obscure one, but it's available on DVD and Blu-ray, and I'm sure you can find it streaming somewhere. But it is way worth your time to check out Dead and Buried. Can't suggest that one enough. A lot of fun, and very much, let me know if you saw what happened kind of coming, because I didn't.
Up next, we have yet another one that I'm not entirely happy to admit that I've not seen, Get Out.
So this movie is a horror movie directed by a comedic actor, and it may be my pick for the best movie of 2017. This movie is so well handled, so well thought out. Every single thing is just so well addressed. When you watch this movie, it's like everything's so well handled. The performances are great and measured. Everything is so good. And the thing, of course, that everybody sees and, kind of reveres about this movie is it's a movie that's using horror and scary themes to start a bigger dialogue. It is not preachy, and I know it came under a little bit of scrutiny for being quote unquote too preachy. I don't think so at all. It's left very ambiguous. There are things you can read into it, and the more you watch it, the more you can read into little pieces of it, and the deeper the kind of issues it's trying to bring to light, which is that of like not necessarily blatant racism, but racial awkwardness, and the way people are when there's like when you're on the fringes as an ethnicity or a minority amongst a larger group of people, and how scary and kind of off-putting that can be. It really takes those awkward feelings and really puts them into the world of horror. And Jordan Peele does an absolutely phenomenal job of taking something that like makes you uncomfortable as someone who is a different ethnicity amongst a larger group, and just does an amazing job to push it to the limits of how could this situation be the most terrifying possible thing. And he really does a nice job of landing it.
All right.
So.
I will definitely have to check it out. I know I've been saying that for a while now, but keeping the trend alive, up next we have Victor Crowley, which is, I guess I'm not ashamed to say I haven't seen, because from what you tell me, there aren't a lot of people who can say they've seen it.
No, this movie was a surprise release. The director, Adam Green, was supposedly going on tour to do a 10th anniversary kind of and like special release, or like remastering or something of the original Hatchet movie. This is the 4th Hatchet movie, and just the first night it was playing, right before it was getting ready to go on tour, he just said, "Oh, by the way, it's not Hatchet. It's the 4th Hatchet that no one knew I was making, despite the fact I have a weekly podcast." It was a very mic drop moment. He really did a nice job. And so then he launched a tour for this new Hatchet movie, kind of just to show it off in, in small theaters to fans who really wanted to take the time to come out and see kind of the fruits of his labor, as far as his slasher like idol, which is Victor Crowley, who is a swamp ghoul who lives down in the bayous of Louisiana, and is like a ghost.
Bayou, singular, but sure.
The bayou?
Yes.
Is it all one thing?
Yes.
Huh. All right, so he hangs out in the bayou, and is like a recurring kind of ghost that comes back every night and kills if there are people in his particular area of the swamp.
Huh.
And one thing that really, this movie went these are very ridiculous, like 80s slasher movie homages. So the violence is ramped up, to 11. And it's so far over the top, you can't see where the top was if you look down. And he does a really nice job of making this one very fun, but still delivering kind of a powerful, cynical message about the state of movies and kind of how hard it is to be in the movie industry at this point. And he does a really nice job of making some sharp kind of points, and some really like kind of pulls to light a lot of issues about how the industry is right now in these really uncertain times. And he uses the movie as kind of a cover for all that, despite the fact there's like a, terrible monster man who is killing a bunch of people.
I dig it.
Yeah, really nice job.
Dig it.
And that was in the theater, and that was my first time seeing it, obviously.
Yes. We have another one off this list that I really, really appreciate. Tales from the Hood up next.
Right, as if I couldn't get the conversation about racism and racial stereotyping and kind of the way different races interact out of the way with Get Out. I also watched Tales from the Hood.
Do what you got to do.
But the thing that Tales from the Hood does to me that Get Out does just a little bit less than Tales from the Hood, it's really delivering a message, not necessarily about just like, hey, can you there's the African American experience is one, not just saying that that's something that you need to kind of consider when you're someone else, but it goes as far as to say, hey, people who are African American, what are we doing to each other? We're ripping each other apart, and it's not okay.
Yeah,
like we have so many things to deal with outside of this. We can't just be like killing and ripping ourselves apart. That's insane.
Yeah. Why hate each other when plenty enough other people hate us.
Right, exactly. It's like, you know what I mean? There's already so many, walls put up around us that to just while we're stuck in them to just kill each other off conveniently is absolutely absurd. And it does a very nice but very overt job of saying this is nonsense and you guys need to wake up. And I think it's a very brave kind of movie, especially to and it was produced by Spike Lee, so shouldn't be that surprising that it has these kind of not even really undertones but overtones, especially with the last story in the anthology, because it is an anthology horror movie. It's just very brave and very strong message from the writer director Rusty Cundiff. Nice work there.
Well done, well done, and a very important conversation to be had then and still to this day, which is both sad but also important.
Absolutely.
Up next, we have yet another film I've never seen, Raw.
This was my first watch of this one as well. This one is about a little girl, well, not a little girl, a college freshman or a girl who's, heading off to college. She's going to veterinary school specifically, and she's a vegetarian, and she is forced to eat as an initiation kind of thing, or a hazing, I guess, ritual for the veterinary students. They're forced to eat a rabbit liver that's like been preserved, and so she eats it, and then she starts to realize that she has an unhealthy desire for meat, both of dead things and that of still alive things.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's pretty pretty bizarre film. There are definitely some scenes that I had I kind of like winced at, and there weren't needle gags. Like I'm a special effects artist, but needle gags will get me every single time. It doesn't matter.
Dude, I'm friends with a couple of special effects artists, and needle gags still make me want to die.
Yes, but this one had some scenes that made me wince, and they were not needle gags.
Okay.
So they're actually like pretty hard to watch. It's like, ooh, oh, that's pretty foul. So it does a really nice job kind of telling its story. It's a little slower than I anticipated, but it did do something, and something stuck out with me very much with this one, and that is kind of the way different, because I believe it's Swedish, the film, and it definitely comes from a whole different world. You know what I mean? Like, while it's similar to the same things we do, but just the way it's filmed, the story it tells, the way it takes the time to tell the story, the relationships it has, and how just parents and brothers and sisters are so much more open about certain things, like especially sexuality and things like that. It's very much smacks of a totally different cultural experience, and I didn't know it was Swedish. I had no clue.
Actually, French Belgian. I just looked it up.
Is that what it is?
Yeah,
And
it's
I had
French
no
Belgian.
clue, and it was just straight ahead, and I was like, huh, okay, this is totally different. Like, this is very, very strange.
I'm gonna have to check this out.
You would dig it a lot.
This seems right up my alley.
It very much is. The characters are very kind of, I mean, there's just scenes and moments. I don't want to spoil anything for you, but you said it is 100% a Dan movie.
Oh,
you
sweet.
would love it.
Fantastic. I'm glad to see people are still making stuff that borders on exploitation or just is exploitative.
Yeah, it's very much it feels like an exploitation horror film where they're not afraid of the first party they go to is like this weird, it's in like a slaughterhouse, and it's just kind of like this weird rave, and there's people just having sex all over the place, and there's tons of new. I was just like, oh, okay. I mean, obviously from the beginning I was reading it, so I knew it wasn't, you know what I mean, an English first film. So I was just like, huh. It's like, wasn't expecting this. This is a lot different than what I anticipated, but still really good, really hard to watch, a good kind of character study, and a great ending scene that is worth your time just in and of itself.
Oh man, yeah, I'm definitely going to check that out. Up next,
You know what they say? They're even better raw.
Raw and wriggling. Next we have one of my favorite psychological horror movies, and as you know, and people out there in listener land should know, I am much more a fan of psychological stuff than I am of sight gags and blood and gore, unless it's completely ridiculous blood and gore, a la Hostel.
Right.
I do really appreciate that. But then for some reason, Human Centipede went too far for me. So I don't know. Apparently I have a line, and it's somewhere between Hostel and the Human Centipede.
Fascinating.
Yeah. Which means my line is probably Hostel too. But we have House of the Devil.
Yes, this movie was introduced to me by you.
Mm-hmm.
Director and writer Ty West. He's done a bunch of stuff. The Innkeepers, The Roost. I mean, he's done a fair few things. He's kind of notorious for being a bit underground genre filmmaker, but
He is also originally from Wilmington, Delaware.
yes,
Very close to our hometown. So
absolutely. So this movie's good. Like Dan said, it takes, and the thing that, it's really easy. It's about a girl who gets a babysitting gig, and she finds out that it's not a babysitting gig. It's actually kind of taking care of an old person. And so she does it because she needs the money for renting her first apartment. And she's at college, so she takes this job so she can get an apartment off campus. And she finds out that she is caught up in the middle of some rather unpleasant things. And I'll keep it spoiler free because the review and the thing that caught me about this can keep it spoiler free. But the thing that strikes me about this, along with a lot of Ty West's work, is, and Ty West gets categorized kind of as a slow burn director. This movie does a fantastic job of just kind of making the, just like, this is going to be horrible. Like, this poor girl, and it's just the tension and kind of the, you just don't, it's like somehow you see an accident, or like you go to click on a video where it's like the worst accident I've ever seen. It's going to happen. And you're just like, oh, this is going to be awful. And he just does such a good job of leaving you with this just absolute dread in your belly while you're watching it. It's just fantastic.
Well, it's like the short that he did for ABC's Death.
Very much, very much.
He is good at
he loves taking his time.
Yeah, and he's good at being horrible.
Yeah, it's great, and he just really, yeah, exactly. He's like, I know this is coming, and I know it's going to be wretched, so I'm not going to tell you what's going to happen. I'm just going to let you imagine how bad it's going to be, and then I'm going to make it worse. Which is just phenomenal. Great movie, all the way through. Tom Noonan's in this, and I fucking love Tom Noonan. You may know him from Monster Squad. He's Frankenstein. He's the bad guy in RoboCop 2. He's also Dollarhide in Manhunter, which is the way better version of Red Dragon. Tom Noonan, big thumbs up there.
He's the Ripper in Last Action Hero.
I forgot about that. God, I haven't seen that movie in like a decade.
Neither have I, but that's one of the things I always remember him for.
Yeah, man, I have to go back and rewatch that one. Maybe. I will, but I may regret it. But definitely need to recheck out Last Action. I love the Arnold movies though. Like I know I'm signing up for garbage a lot of the time, but I love them Arnold movies. But yeah, House of the Devil, way worth your time. And Dan and I both agree on this one.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't surprise me that we agree. I mean, we agree on a lot of things, so that's not really like a huge thing.
Well, I'm just trying to sell them.
Like, selling the audience.
They may not know us. They're like, oh man,
on.
well, both these guys like it. Yeah, that's great.
I suppose that's true. If we both like it, it's got to be something, right? It can't just be like some giant steaming pile of garbage. Speaking of things that are definitely not a giant...
I think we like a few of those.
Oh, we do. But to things that are definitely not giant steaming piles of garbage, we have come to the end of this list, and we've landed at the only film on the list that would probably challenge for my favorite, which is Jacob's Ladder.
This movie is unbelievable. If you have never seen this movie, you like, of all the movies on this list, if you haven't seen I haven't seen like 2 or 3 of these, for the love of God, if you're going to watch one from this list, please watch this one. Like, it is so good, and it is criminally underseen. Like, it's just one of those movies that flies under the radar for whatever reason. And it is a horror movie that will frighten you. It will confuse you. It will make you cry at the end. It's so powerful emotionally across the spectrum. It does everything. It just tells such a great story of the human condition and human experience and life and death. It's just phenomenal.
Yeah. Did you know, because I didn't or must not have remembered who directed this film?
Adrian
Lynn. And Adrian Lynn, who directed Fatal Attraction, Indecent Proposal, and the Lolita remake.
Oh, was it not Basic Instinct?
No.
Was it Fatal Attraction that I'm confusing it with?
Fatal Attraction, Indecent Proposal. He went in order: Flashdance, 9.5 Weeks, Fatal Attraction, Jacob's Ladder, Indecent Proposal, and Lolita.
Jeez.
Yeah, what a body of work. But
yeah, awesome stuff.
But Jacob's Ladder is damn nearly a perfect film.
It's the performances are like Tim Robbins' performance in this movie is unfathomable. This is also the second movie on the list with Ving Rhames in it, who's also does a great job playing a not very Ving Rhames part. He's not like just a badass like he is in the Dawn of the Dead remake.
Yeah.
He's or Marcellus Wallace. He's not that character at all.
I will also point out to those who are listening to this in the future, this is the original 1990 film, not the remake that is, as we record this, still unreleased.
Yes, yeah. So, and let's hope it stays that way.
Yeah,
because this, like, I couldn't, like, there's, I mean, I would do it if somebody was just like, Max, the only way you're allowed to make movies is if you remake a movie you love. I may turn it down if the movie is this, because I don't know if I would have, I don't know if I have the life experience. I don't know if I just don't know if I could remake this movie in a way that would make, you know, it as impactful as Lynn's version, because this movie is so compelling and so well cast and just it's so strong across the board that, like, I know I'm like, you know, waxing its car pretty hard, but I can tell you that it lives up to the hype, because I think I told you about it, right? And then you watched it.
I had known about it, but I had never seen it.
And did it live up to the hype?
Oh, absolutely, and then some, because the movie's just incredible. It's truly incredible.
It's terrifying. It's uplifting. It makes you. It hits all the feels. Like, it just gets you in all of them. It's great.
Mm-hmm. It's incredible, and the cast, even like people who would go on, like Kyle Gass is in this movie. You know, half of Tenacious D, and Lewis Black plays his doctor when he's in the tub, like,
and again playing against type very much. Well, at least the type we know now.
Yeah, because this was before he had a type. Like, yeah, that's.
Well, I'm sure his stand-up was. Well, you know his stand-up way better than I do. His stand-up was pretty consistent the way he delivered it the whole time, right?
Yeah, but he didn't start notably doing stand-up. I mean, he started performing stand-up before this, but he wasn't sort of known for it until around this same time. So, like, he hadn't developed the persona was similar, but it wasn't nobody knew it.
Right, exactly.
You know, he kind of, you know, his first Comedy Central special was in like 96 or 97.
Right.
It was like, you know, he'd been doing stand-up, but he wasn't a known stand-up at this point.
Right. I know he just didn't Larry the Cable Guy it and like, I tried this before, it didn't work, so I'm doing this.
No, he's been the angry shouting Jewish guy since the 70s.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, that was a movie. So
there's
good.
So many people in this movie. Jason Alexander's in this movie.
Yeah, he is.
Like, it's great. Like, the amount of people, the Soul Glow guy from Coming to America's in it. It's crazy. The cast in this movie is insane. Like, it's ridiculous, and everybody is so well cast. Elizabeth Pena's in it.
Yeah.
Macaulay Culkin's in it. Like, it's absurd. And
how did I not know that Elizabeth Pena had died?
Yeah, that was crazy. That happened a little while ago now too.
Yeah, it was October 2014. So it was like 3 years ago. But like, I did not know that. To me, like, I still remember from like Batteries Not Included and stuff.
Yeah. Oh, she was a great character actress. She really was.
It was like Danny Aiello in this movie. Like,
yeah. Oh, he's great in this movie.
He's just great in general. But
so good.
He's so good in Once Upon a Time in America.
This movie is so, like, you people out there are really doing yourself a disservice if you don't watch this movie. It is phenomenal.
I mean, we could literally just we could probably sit here and gush over this movie for as long as we've recorded this entire thing.
Oh yeah, hands down. Like, anybody who says this movie is not exceptional, like, I wouldn't fight you, but I would be willing to get on a podcast and go back and forth with you and tell you why.
I wouldn't fight you except with words.
Right, exactly. Well, I'm not going to fight somebody over a movie they dislike, but I will certainly get on a public forum and tell them why they're stupid.
You will words fight them.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a worder, not a fighter.
Yeah.
I words a lot.
I will words at you in every direction. Well, I do believe that brings us to the end of your list here. Any closing thoughts you'd like to add?
No. I think it was it's good. I got, the rest of the month we'll do another video. I just didn't want to keep this one from being like, oh, this is like, I'm not gonna watch this.
2.5 hours long.
Yeah, this guy's talking for 90 minutes. What the hell is this shit? Like, yeah. I just want to keep it nice. We'll do a part 2 next week.
Yeah, we'll do the bottom half, and we'll check out the ladder, the run into the end of October.
The ladder?
The Jacob's Ladder half,
all the way down.
Just all the way down.
One long trip down the ladder.
What a long, strange trip it's been.
All right.
All right. Thanks for checking us out. You can find us anywhere that you can see the word Supraliminal next to the word films. And that's plenty of places. We're on all the social medias. Be sure you check us out there. And as the uh, as the YouTube meme lords add, and you can feel free to cut this if you'd like, crush that like and subscribe button.
There you go. And happy anti Christmas.